Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new expanded deck profile. Today we're going to be looking at one of the decks I kind of credit myself with popularizing, a former meta deck of the expanded format, Volcarona V. We're mainly building around the Surging Flames attack, which does 20 plus 20 for each basic energy in your discard pile, and then you shuffle all those energy cards into your deck. So what you're aiming to do is get a bunch of energy in the discard pile every single turn and hit for absurdly high numbers. Notably also, it was a second attack, which has 3 fire, 1 colorless, 160. Discard energy from this Pokemon is not always a great attack, but I have used it in several games before. I've played about 1,500 games with Volcarona, this is a deck that I definitely know inside and out. You do use Fire Blast on occasion. I've used it a lot of times, especially against decks like Ultra Necrozma, when you can't guarantee that you're going to have the energy in the discard pile. And that. 200 HP, V is pretty solid, and it's actually my favorite artwork of any V Pokemon. Shout out to Kawaii, which is arguably my favorite illustrator, top 1 or 2 illustrator for the Pokemon TCG. This is just a beautiful card. And like I said, with crediting myself for its creation, I did not create the idea itself. The idea itself actually was in Japan. Japan was playing a 4 Volcarona for Volcanion deck, and I remember seeing originally Shintaro Ito talking about the deck and other, high-profile expanded people who are in the, pay attention to expanded, which is not that many to be honest. But I actually took the deck out on the ladder on day 1 of Evolving Skies release, and just absolutely exploded it. And within about a few days, people finally caught on. I went on several 10+ win streaks because this deck just decimated everything in the expanded meta at the time. Everything was tag teams, 3 prizers like Mewtwo, Mew, Umbreon, Darkrai, paired with the Greninja Zoroark. There was a lot of Pikachu Zekrom still around, and Volcarona just decimated every single one of them. It was afraid of no tag team, just blew them away. The only one that even gave it competition eventually was, once again, Arceus, Palkia, and Eggrow, which always remain thorns in your side. But basically, my list that I created originally, which was 58 cards, similar to basically every single list going around right now, is still pretty standardized. The list had a Ranger in it, did not have Radiant Greninja in it, and had 1 less fire. And there's one other change that I can't remember. I believe there was a 3rd stadium at the time, but that is not needed. So I do kind of credit myself a lot with these changes. A lot of the changes that really made the deck as good as it is are because of innovations that I decided to go on. Yeah, we're going to talk about them. The first change that I came to is that I was originally using Victini Prism Star because that's what the Japanese players were using. Victini Prism Star, for any who don't know, essentially has the same attack as Volcarona. It does 20 times the amount of fire energy you about, and then you shuffle them back into your deck. But the problem is that it's not bad. 90 HP, seems pretty good. You get a little bit of a weaker attack, but you're on a single prizer. Problem is that it's 2 prizer. I also love this art. Or it's as a 2 energy attack cost, and you can't pay that in this deck on a single prizer. So I saw some Mad Party players playing around on the first day of this deck. Oh yeah, Spirit Tomb was the other card that was in this deck originally. Spirit Tomb from Chilling Reign to counter Mad Party. If we go there, let me just do that real quick. Yes, this Spirit Tomb right here, that counters Mad Party entirely, because that was otherwise an auto loss. This Mew popped up in all the Mad Party lists when I was using the Victini for my first few games, and I was like, this Mew is just an objectively better idea, why don't I use that? Because not only is it have free retreat, can it use the attack for 1 energy, does it have another attack you can use, but it also is Psychic type, meaning it also hit weakness on the, at the time, popular Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX, as well as some other fighting threats. Potentially you'd see, Machamp, Marshadow, and actual Marshadow, and things along those lines. The Mew is absolutely wonderful. You can play 2 copies if you want. I've seen people play Rescue Stretchers in their variants to reuse the Mew and just reuse the stuff you discard early on. I don't think it's needed, honestly. 1 Mew serves you pretty generally well. You do lose to a lot of single prizer decks like Mad Party. Now you don't play Spirit Tomb in it, but Mad Party isn't really the deck it used to be, though Melgen is obviously a bit of a problem. We do have another really important line in the deck, and that's the 3/3 Blitzle and Zebstrika line. This is the correct Blitzle to use. I've seen a billion different Blitzles be used in this deck. This is the best one because it has 70 HP, and it has an attack that is actually usable. Next up, we have the 3 copies of Zebstrika from Lost Thunder. 110 HP does kind of suck, but we're here for the Sprint ability. Once during your turn, you may discard your hand and draw 4 cards. You can use multiple of these per turn, so if you get multiple Zebstrika, which is hopefully the goal, then you can use Sprint a lot. You typically want 2 Zebstrikas in play. Sadly, Headbolt is not usable, though I have seen people tech Lightning Energy, and more importantly, like Rainbow Special Energies, anything that can pay Fire and Lightning to counter things like Vile Plume. But I just don't think that's a generally reliable strategy, because your opponent can just play something, you know, like Flare Grunt, and you just lose then. So just don't do that. Just, you know, play into the matchups you are good at and lose the rest. We have 1 copy here, a newer card, Radiant Greninja from Astral Radiance with its Concealed Cards ability. Once during your turn, you may discard an energy from your hand and then draw 2 cards. I hate how wordy these new abilities are. Yeah, this is just good because every single turn we're going to discard a card from our hand and draw 2. We constantly want energy to be in the discard anyway. Yeah, this is a win-win. This card's been absolutely awesome. It's just good to have extra consistency throughout the entire game, and it's a basic, which means you don't have to worry about Zebstrika. A lot of times you can prize the Horsies in the back, and sometimes you can discard a lot of Zebstrikas early, so if you can't get 2 out, you can get 1 Blitzle and 1 Zebstrika, 1 Radiant Greninja, and I can typically do fine. There's only 1 copy of Volcanion. A lot of people seem to think that the deck should play 4 Volcanion, but I heartily disagree. Once during your turn, you may discard a Fire Energy from your hand. If you do, your basic Fire Pokemon do 30 more damage. It is good in theory because you can use multiple Steam Ups per turn. Use like 4 Steam Ups and you're doing 120 more damage and discarding 4 energy, meaning that you know, you're essentially doing, what would that be, 220 right then and there, just by discarding 4 energy with 4 Steam Ups. And there's even Scoop Up Net for it. The biggest problem with Volcanion, and it is valuable, is that it is so trappable. It is the biggest weakness this deck has to other meta decks, is either not getting attacked off turn 1 because of Volcanion-EX getting stuck in the active spot, or getting trapped if your opponent were to, like, Guzma, Field Blower, and then item lock you with something like a Vikavolt or a Seismitoad. You just lose the game then and there, and it's just not worth dealing with. 2 fire, 1 colorless Volcanic Heat, 130 is bad, but I've used it before because you do hit for water weakness, which is kind of cool. It is a dual type after all. 1 copy of Dedenne with the Day-to-Day Change. When you play it from your hand into your bench, you may discard your hand and draw 6 cards. You can't use more than 1 Day-to-Day Change per turn, otherwise we would like 2. I've seen people play 2 and 3 days even. I don't think you need those, generally because you want to limit the amount of bad starters you have in your deck to a minimum, and you want to keep, you know, keep the good times rolling. If you prize Dedenne, it kind of sucks, but you know, you don't want to start it. Starting it is really bad. You need that bench space more than ever, because as you can see, if we have 2 Zebstrikas in play, 2 Volcaronas in play, and Radiant Greninja and Volcanion, our bench is like full. So like, you know, we don't have that much bench space in the first place, so 1 Dedenne suffices. You don't want to start 1 and then have to use 1, because that's losing situation right there. Although I could see a reason for playing a second one. The attacks aren't usable, so we don't worry about those. 1 copy of Exeggcute here with the propagation ability. If it's in your discard pile, you may put it into your hand, and you can do this multiple times. This isn't the most valuable card in the entire world, however, I would say that it's probably my favorite piece in the deck. And what this allows you to do is turn all of your discard synergy, of which there is almost the entire deck, in almost the entire trainer line rather, into strength, and it allows you to much more efficiently use these pieces so that you don't just have to sack them off. A lot of times this deck can just run out of steam in the late game if you just burn all of your resources, and without Exeggcute that can be really realistic that can happen, because you're discarding, you know, your other resources, like discarding Ultra Balls, Battle Compressors off your thing, so that you can use your resources like Fiery Flint, Computer Search, Giant Hearth, and you don't want to be able to do that. Exeggcute guarantees you much lower the cost. I know you do have energy that you're going to usually have in hand, but you're not going to be able to always do it all. Exeggcute makes it so that you can, and it's quite good. Starting it feels pretty bad, so if you want to add a Scoop Up Net potentially into this deck, you could add a Scoop Up Net to scoop up Volcanion as well, or Radiant Greninja for a reuse. I could see an argument for that, but I haven't found myself needing it personally. You only have 3 bad starters in the deck, whereas you have, like, would this be 8, 9 good starters, so you're not too worried about that. Frankly, Volcanion isn't even that bad of a starter as long as you can find a Float Stone. That's just the difficult part. Since we need to get energy into the discard pile as fast as possible, we play the Professor Juniper, discard your hand and draw 7 cards, allowing you to quickly just destroy your hand and draw 7 more cards. It is the most fast and aggressive supporter in the expanded format, and it works perfectly with this deck's goal of discarding all of the energy that it can to throw big Surging Flames attacks. We play 2 copies of Guzma here. Switch from your opponent's bench Pokemon they're active. If you do, switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench. So this is the best ghosting option. Also allows you to move things you may want to not have in the active, like Volcanion, or Greninja, or an Exeggcute, and move into a more preferable thing, such as Mew or Volcarona, and allows you to gust your opponent as well. Definitely would play this over Lysander because you do want that switching effect over Boss as well. You do want that switching effect on your own side of the field, and you're usually, as long as you play the card right, you're not worried about having to find, a way to pivot into an attacker. 4 copies of Quick Ball here. Play it only if you discard another card from your hand. Search your deck for a basic, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Just allows you to get all of the Pokemon in your deck since your entire deck is basic. Does mean you lose to Vileplume, so do keep that in mind. 4 copies of Ultra Ball here. Discard 2 cards from your hand. Search your deck for a Pokemon and reveal it and put it into your hand. Shuffle it back afterward. Same thing as Quick Ball, but since we need to discard cards anyway, there's no reason not to just play them all to get the most Pokemon consistency we can. Actually, Quick Ball can't search Zebstrika. That is notable. Ultra Ball can, Quick Ball cannot. 1 copy of Computer Search here. This is the A spec you should definitely be using. Discard 2 cards from hand, search your deck for any card, and put it into your hand. Since we're already discarding anyway, it fits pretty good. Again, Exeggcute covers all of these, so do keep that in mind. As well as the fact that Computer Search just allows you to search any card. A lot of times you're going to be searching for that specific piece, Guzma, Float Stone, Greninja, whatever you may need to finish off a Pokemon. We play 4 copies of Battle Compressor here, just allowing you to search your deck for up to 3 cards and discard them. This card should be banned and expanded, but since it isn't, we're going to take advantage of it. Just allows you to instantly get 3 energies in the discard pile. That means every Battle Compressor you get is plus 60 damage that turn. Keep that in mind. So absolutely worth running 4 copies. 4 copies of Fiery Flint. You can only play it if you discard 2 cards from your hand, then search your deck for 4 fire energy, reveal them, and put them into your hand. So what this allows you to do is discard, like, essentially a fire energy and an Exeggcute, which this is a very common scenario. Use Fiery Flint, discard Exeggcute and fire energy, get 4 fire energy out of the deck, and then just mill them down with something like Ultra Ball, Steam Up, Concealed Cards, and you're just getting a ton of damage off. 4 copies of Fiery Flint is absolutely correct. 2 copies of Float Stone here. The Pokemon this card is attached to has no retreat. Just allows you to pivot your Volcanion around mainly, but also allows you to set up pivots on Zebstrika and Radiant Greninja. That's my biggest argument against Scoop Up Net, is that you can't really use it on things like Zebstrika, which you are a lot of times going to have in the active. There's a lot of scenarios where I put a Zebstrika in the active spot. On my first turn, I'm unable to do anything, and then next turn, I evolve it into Zebstrika, Float Stone it, Juniper it, and then Float Stone it, and you Scoop Up Net would devolve the Pokemon, which you wouldn't really want. Most of the time, rather. We do play 2 stadiums here, 1 copy of Giant Hearth. Once during each player's turn, that player may discard a card from their hand. If they do, they search their deck for 2 fire energy, reveal them, put them into their hand. So this is actually pretty good. It synergizes perfectly with the deck. It also just allows you to get a free power-up. Again, Exeggcute synergizes pretty well here. And it guarantees you always have the fire energy. A lot of times, if you have Giant Hearth in play, you can go super aggressive and not have to worry about whiffing a fire energy. I know that sounds amazing, considering we have 18, but you do whiff fire energy. So you can kind of just go super aggressive without having to worry about attaching prematurely. You don't have to worry about attaching. You want all of them in discard them all with like Sprint, Day Change, or Juniper, and then you can guaranteed find one with Giant Hearth if you don't find one off that draw. 1 copy of Heat Factory here is, of course, the best stadium for fire decks. Discard a fire energy from your hand and then draw 3 cards. Obviously, the great thing about Prism Star stadiums, they can't be wiped out by Field Blower and the like. You're not going to find this being too relevant. Your opponent usually going to have a stadium to replace it. Stadiums are pretty common and expanded right now between Stormy Mountain, Silent Lab, Chaotic Swell, Path to the Peak. There's a lot of stadiums seeing play and expanded, so it's not going to stay in play too long, but if it does, it is quite a valuable asset, allowing you to draw 3 cards every turn, similar to Greninja. With the combined effort of them both, you're drawing 5. And then 18 fires to round off the list. 18 allows us to hit up to 380 damage, which is a good number to hit. That's what you want to be hitting. Obviously, that sounds like more than you'd ever need, and obviously you could hit, not 380. Is it 380? No, it's 390 rather, with Volcanion and Steam Up. That's right. It's an odd number. And that sounds like more than you'd ever need to hit, but there's actually matchups where you'll end up prizing 2 or 3 energy, and if you prize 2 or 3 energy against a VMAX and you have a lower energy count, then you're just going to suffer for that. So I think 18 energy plays pretty well. My original list plays 17, and there's just a lot of times I'd run into like a bulky VMAX and just wouldn't be able to KO except rise like 3 or 4 energy. Considering you play a lot of energy, that is a likely scenario. So playing more also never hurts because, you know, with Radiant Greninja around, Heat Factory, etc., you're always going to have ways to discard them to get more damage. Anyway, thank you guys so much for checking out this Deck profile video, and I'll see you in the next